Hi everybody, I'm Brooke Sanders, and this is Johnstown's Finest. Okay folks, we're in Central Park today, and we're talking to these two lovely ladies. They have a message for community. I want you to hear them out. They're going to introduce themselves and they're going to tell you what's going on.
I am Laura Huchel. I sit on City Council and I am running for Mayor of Johnstown. And it came to my attention that the original plans for the redesign of Central Park had gotten compromised. So it concerned me very much as a representative of the people who voted on the new designs for the park that we make sure that we advocate that we get the best possible product that we can for our constituents. So I will pass it off to Janean.
Yeah, I'm Janean Wheeler. I am a resident and a graphic designer, and when I heard about the redesign of the redesign, I got invested because I want Johnstown to have nice things, and there is nothing better than a Scape design.
So what is the big blowback, about all of this? I mean, some folks really want to get this started. We have two design companies that are involved in this, right? We have Scape and we also have CJL, is that correct?
So we started the park redesign process a number of years ago, not long after I was elected to council. We saw it as an important part of our job as city government to invest in our park. It was an important way for us to attract new residents. So we started this process and we started working with the best landscape architecture design firm in the world, and that is Scape Landscape Architecture. So they did months of community engagement, and then they developed design and bid documents to make this a world-class park. They took a lot of attention getting to know Johnstowners, getting to know what we needed to do with our war monuments, and getting to know what we needed to do with our Christmas tree, and getting to know how we used our gazebo. So they put a lot of time and effort and expertise into their design. They've got arborists on staff, they hired lighting designers, and they were always partnered with CJL Engineering as a subcontractor. So someone to check and make sure the electrical vaults aren't in a place that are going to cause a problem or something like that. So Scape has been involved from the beginning, but they weren't involved with the community engagement process that Scape was doing.
You mean CJL was not involved in the...
Correct. CJL was not originally involved in the...
Okay, so then there was the breakup.
So...
Is that the wrong phrase?
Say, I don't know that I would characterize it as a breakup per se, because Scape has been very passionate about this project to the point that they were willing to spend an hour of their time with me, including the principal, Kate Orff, who's famous, frankly, and two other folks on their staff. Spent an hour with me last week trying to talk me through, kind of what happened and how we got to where we are. So it seems as though City Hall, rightly so, with Art Martinuska and Mike Capriotti went in and went line by line through this project, trying to wrap their arms around it, because they're both a little bit new to the process too, trying to understand the park project, make sure it was on budget, make sure that everything was realistic and we could move forward. And in the process of doing that, somehow we got off track. We started to make changes to the park, and I really tried to get to the bottom of that at the council meeting last Wednesday when I was asking CGL, where did we come up with these changes? How did we decide to, add this circle to the park and things like that? And I didn't get a lot of great answers, so I wasn't very satisfied that I could explain to my constituents why the design had changed from this world-class design that, frankly, the city of Johnstown paid a lot of money for, to something that's now amalgamated and that Scape won't take ownership of. So when Scape saw that the design changes coming down the path, at first they tried to put on the brakes and said, oh, Johnstown, we'd love to help you. Your timeline is really tight. We have to get moving. If you're going to change the design, please know these things. And they sent this memo, which I'm happy to share with the public. It's a public document. And then a couple of days later, then Scape had to rescind the proposals that they offered, offering to do construction administration and splitting apart the bid documents that they had already turned in. And it seems to me that has to do with differences in design. So the fact that whatever changes CJL and the landscape architecture, or the architecture firm that they brought in that has one landscape architect working for it, Upstreet Architects, the changes that they were making got too far from what Scape was doing for them to be able to stay involved. So they sent a very gracious memo saying, we're cheering you on, from the sidelines, but we have to step back because this is frankly no longer our design.
And I think receipts are really important, and understanding the timeline. So we did put together a website, startthepark.today, and on there are these receipts. So you can see that Scape wrote memos in August saying it was really important to keep designers on the project. The city did not want them to continue on the project in August of last year. They re-engaged conversation, and in February of this year, they proposed that they do pre-construction and also construction admin with 2 separate proposals. They wrote a very lengthy and very thoughtful memo about being concerned about design changes and also the pending and looming deadline to spend the funding money for this project. And that wasn't accepted by the city. So this idea or this narrative that they distanced themselves, they quit us, is far from the truth.
So with all that being said, it is a little confusing for our community because they're getting a different story. So you're going to provide us with proofs so the community will have, documentation that what you're saying is actually really true to help alleviate some of that confusion. And you also started a petition, isn't that correct?
That's right. So I think there's been a lot of confusion kind of from the beginning because it's been so long since Scape, frankly, was here doing their community engagement to the point where we're now at, frankly, we should have been at bid last year. Or at the latest at June of this year, we should have been ready already, or we should have had our shovel in the ground in June. So originally it sounded like people were getting the idea that we were taking out all the trees and paving the park, and I think we've done a lot of work to dispel like that was never the case. We were always going to add more trees to the park and increase green space. And then I think what hasn't been getting around is that Scape has this beautiful design. There's a great video even on the city's website of the flyover that people can check out or you can link to, where it just basically takes you through Scape's design and shows you how much green space there is and what a gorgeous design Scape produced.
I'll provide the links for you folks.
That'll be wonderful. So then, we had this gorgeous design, and now it's been a year and a half since Scape has really been involved. Not of their own free will. It's been transitions in the city government and things like that, where we've had 3 DCD directors and 2 city managers in the process of having this done. So somehow in the process, this new design came out, and the first time I saw it was at April's council meeting, and it was hand drawn over Scape's design, which is what precipitated part of the petition activity,
Which we have online as well, so you can see it.
So that precipitated part of the petition activity because that's concerning. Anyway, like if I made a piece of art, which is what this park is, I wouldn't want someone drawing over it, and that would create some copyright infringements. So, there are just some questions there that make it really dangerous and I think risky for the city of Johnstown to be proceeding down this road. So subsequently, CJL and who they subcontracted Upstreet are working on a razor-thin budget and a razor-thin timeline to try to crank out design and bid documents that Scape already did for their design. So essentially, we're stepping back in the process, a year in the process, to do this redesign that no one really asked for. So now instead of a gorgeous lawn, we have a big perfect circle in the middle of the gorgeous lawn and a park that otherwise is supposed to, have curving shapes and not perfect shapes.
So this is coming up kind of last minute, tomorrow is the primary vote. And I'm wondering, are you a little concerned about how this is going to land with community? Let's talk about that.
So I'm absolutely concerned about how it will land. I'm not just concerned because I want Johnstown to have the best park possible. I'm also concerned because my constituents asked for the Scape Park that was proposed, and I'm not going to be able to deliver that. I'm not going to even be able to deliver the brand name park that we paid for unless I get us back on the right track. So I'm hoping that the community stands up and demands that we get back on the right track, go back to Scape, mea culpa, fix that relationship so that we can proceed. They're already ahead of the game. They're essentially at the same spot or ahead of where CJL and Upstreet are right now.
Do you still have a relationship with them? Have you reached out to them prior to starting this campaign?
Absolutely, yeah. So I mentioned I spoke with Scape last week.
Okay.
They are certainly willing to re-engage, but we have to go back to their design. They're not going to proceed with this new design.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we started a petition on change.org for people to demand to go back to the Scape design. We understand that there will naturally be some small changes because this is a natural organic process, but to not have the designers involved in their design is going to create some difficulties. And there is a big difference between swapping out small things and completely redesigning the park. They're not the same, and what CJL and Upstreet are proposing to do is a completely different park. So we really want people to stay informed and read everything on there. It's transparent to what we know We are just as curious as to why this is happening, and we want other people to be just as curious.
Okay, community, this is what I came here to do so that these two ladies could get a voice out of what they feel is happening. And now you have their information, and I want you to think about this, and I want you to comment. I want you to ask questions, and I know that they will answer your questions online. They'll be following this closely, I'm sure.
There's also a message box on the website. You're anonymous if you want to send us something, any tips, ideas, questions. If you want to provide your name and number, we're happy to get in touch with you. We'll look for more evidence if we can. We really want to understand where we got here, and then more importantly, we just want to get back on track because we know that Johnstown can be transformed by this beautiful park by Scape.
And I commit to our community that I will continue to follow this story, and we will continue to update you folks. All right, folks, I hope this was informative for you, and until I see you next time, stay friendly.